Welcome back to episode 8 of Drop the Mitts Hockey Podcast. We are with Chicago Blackhawks forward Mike Hardman. Mike, how you doing, buddy?
Good. How are you?
I'm doing good, man. Can't thank you enough for coming on. And yeah, how's the off season going? What have you been up to? And how's it been going?
It's been good. I got back, I'd say probably like middle of May, and renting a place in South Boston this summer, and been just working out and skating, playing a little bit of golf. So I can't complain at all. But yeah, it's pretty crazy. I feel like I got back like a week ago, and now I'm going back in 2 weeks, leaving to go to Chicago September 3rd. So yeah, it's pretty nuts how the summer flies by, but I've definitely enjoyed it so far.
Yeah, it's. I had to look at the calendar again and be like, "Holy shit!" It's like
Yeah.
middle of August already.
Yeah.
What's your off season routine look like? As far as like on ice work, work like in the gym. What's
Yeah. So basically, I usually like to take like a week to to 2 weeks off of just no hockey, no working out when the season's over. And this summer I took just a week off, where I just didn't really do anything. Just got home, kind of hung out with buddies, saw family and friends. And then after a week, I just was working out. And then I'd say probably like right around like middle of June to end of June, I started skating. And no, I mean probably not like skating like a ton at that time of the summer because it's still pretty early. But once I start working out, it's like 5 times a week. I've been working out with Dan and Thomas Boothby in Hingham, Mass. They're the Northeastern hockey strength coach. I've been working out with those two guys for probably, I think it's been like 8 summers. I think being a Hanover guy, the gym's pretty close to where I grew up. So just been working out with them, and they've done a great job for my career. And yeah, so for skating wise, I think there's so many guys in the Boston area, that spend the off season here. So it's so easy, for a pro to kind of find skates. And, I've been skating over at BU. A lot of pro guys have been skating over there. I actually just got home from the skate. There's a ton of NHL guys there. So it's nice to kind of compete against other guys around the league and just to get ready for camp.
Yeah, so you've been skating in that 3-on-3 tournament there as well.
Uh-huh.
I went a few weeks back, and I was texting you about how crazy it is, how skilled those guys are. Playing. You especially, just how big you guys are, and then being able to have that much skill with that, a smaller amount of ice.
Yeah,
it's the competition, dude.
Yeah, it's definitely a fun league. I think that league started, I'd say this is probably like the third summer, but yeah, I mean, then maybe it's great because there's so many NHL guys that go out there and play. It's actually a lot of fun, but yeah, it's great. You see all like the little kids that come, and a bunch of people come out and just watch. And yeah, I mean, it's a great little league there, and it's pretty good for your development too, just to be able to make plays in tight areas. And but yeah, no, you definitely can't hide in a skate like that. Like if you get burnt, it's pretty ugly. So no, I mean, it's definitely a fun league, and I think the playoffs start next week. So I think it's the semifinals, and then the following week's the finals. So we're playing. So hopefully we go all the way there.
Yeah, how's your squad looking for the playoffs?
We got smoked last week, and we were all kind of joking around after. We're like, that's not a great look going into the playoffs. So, but yeah, I mean, I think we've only lost one game the whole summer, and it was last week. So we were going for an undefeated season, but it just didn't work out. But
who are the guys on your team? There were some I didn't recognize. I didn't really.
Yeah, it's a bunch of Rhode Island guys. Dennis Zazana, he plays for Charlotte Checkers, Florida's AHL team, and he kind of just texted me over the summer and was like, "Hey, you want to play on the team?" And we're pretty good buddies. We grew up playing with each other, so it's me, Denny, Dom Franco, who plays for the Chicago Wolves in the American League, and then there's a couple guys that are coming in and out. I know like Mark McLaughlin, who you guys had on, was on our team one week. Johnny Beecher, who's obviously a Bruins first rounder, was on our team one week. So, yeah, I mean, there's a couple Rhode Island guys that have been kind of switching in and out, but it's pretty crazy. I feel like everyone wants to play in that league, so it's not hard to find guys.
Yeah,
So
it's so like once I saw that roster, I mean, I didn't know anything about it. I know it's been a couple years in the running,
yeah,
been going on, and I looked at the roster. I was like, holy shit! Like the amount of just how skilled all you guys are, just how loaded those rosters are. It was unbelievable hockey to watch.
yeah, no, it's a lot of fun. Like I was saying before, I mean, it's just I mean, and you're playing against all your buddies. We were like most guys are working out together or skating together. So I know it's pretty fun and definitely have some bragging rights on the table for this championship coming up.
Yeah, man. Do you hang out with any of those guys, golf with them at all, or? Um,
Yeah, no, for sure. I mean, obviously, I played hockey at BC with Mark. Actually, like Mark's like one of my best friends. Literally, I grew up playing with Mark since we were probably, I don't know, 8 or 9 years old. And I definitely wanted to bring this up on the show because I know you had him on before, but it's pretty crazy. Looking back on it, like I know when he signed with the Bruins, like we were talking, and it feels like yesterday we were playing in these summer hockey tournaments together, and we were like literally 9, 10 years old, and now we were playing at BC together, and now we signed pro, and hopefully I haven't played against him pro yet, so hopefully we play against each other next year. But no, I mean it's just pretty crazy playing against these guys, and but yeah, I mean like in that league, I think it's like New Hook's played. He's one of my good buddies too. I didn't really know Beecher that well before the summer, but he's living in Boston, so I've been hanging out with him a good amount. But yeah, I mean everyone. I mean we're either working out, skating, or you're playing golf with your buddies. So I mean it's just, I mean those guys, like most of like my Hanover buddies, they're working 9 to 5 jobs, so it's pretty tough to kind of ask a guy to like play golf at 1 p.m. when he's working like on a weekday. So you're usually playing golf and hanging out with hockey guys like during the week, and then on the weekends you're hanging out with your hometown buddies, whatever. But I mean that's why I think Boston's a great city to live in the summer because there's so many hockey guys that are kind of training around here.
Yeah, I think that's awesome that like you and Mark obviously grew up together and kind of
Uh-huh.
have known each other so long. Obviously, you guys took different routes with
Yeah.
Cushing and Winchton in school.
Uh-huh.
Did you guys ever get to play against each other, like in high school, like when you were at?
We played against each other. So Mark did 3 years at Cushing. I did 2 years at Winchendon. I went in to Winch as a junior, and he went to Cushing, I think, as a sophomore. So I played against Mark twice in high school, and I remember my junior year they beat us by 1 goal. It was a really good game, and then my senior year we tied. We like went to overtime, but no one scored, so it resulted in a tie. But yeah, it was those were great games because obviously Cushing was our rival. So like basically both schools are at the game, so it's like a sold out rink, and I think for like a prep school game to be sold out, it's pretty insane, and it was a really special 2 games to plan. But yeah, he was at Cushing for 3 years, and then I actually played against him in the USHL as well, and then he was actually a big reason why I chose BC. I actually stayed with him on my official visit, and him and another guy, Patrick Giles, who plays for Charlotte, Florida's AHL team. They were like kind of showing me around, and Mark, I think, was just huge. He was telling me about like the whole program and showing me all the ins and outs of the campus and the hockey facilities and stuff. And I think just being able to kind of pick his brain about it, because like he was a guy I kind of grew up with, and I wasn't really scared to ask him any questions. And so I mean, he always says, like he always jokes around and says, "Oh yeah, I was the reason why." I'm part of the reason why you came to BC, and it's actually like kind of true because like he loved it his freshman year, and I kind of took his word on it, and I absolutely loved BC too. So I can't thank him enough, and he was a great captain. My sophomore year, he was the captain, and he was awesome, like great leader. Works his butt off every single day. He's great with the younger guys. So so that was pretty cool to be able to play with him in college.
Were there any other schools in the mix, or was it once you went to BC and had that that tour and
Yeah.
everything? Were there any other schools in the mix?
Yeah. So I actually I narrowed it down to BC and BU. My grandfather played hockey at BU, and I was a huge BU fan growing up, like the biggest BU. I would go to all the Beanpot games, Hockey East games, and so when everyone kind of heard that I was choosing between BC and BU, everyone's like, "Oh, he's definitely going to BU." Like his grandfather went there. Like he was a huge BU fan growing up, and it's pretty crazy. Like I was playing in the BCHL that year. I flew to Boston on like a Monday, and I was at BC for 2 days and then BU for 2 days, and I had toured BC first, and I never ever in my life, I never went to BC. I never went to BC ever. Like I was always going to like BU games. Like I said before, I never really saw BC's campus or anything. And I stepped foot on campus and I was like, this is like unreal. Like I think it was just like one of those things where you talk to people, they're like, you're going to know where you want to go. And when I stepped foot on BC, I remember touring around with like Coach York and Coach Brendan Buckley and Mike Ayers, and I was just like, this is where I want to go. I mean, it's obviously in Boston. You have a campus right there, and you have like downtown Boston right there as well. So I was a prep school guy, so I kind of wanted to be on a campus, but I obviously toured BU after, and I think a lot of people were shocked. I think even like Coach York was like, I remember like him being like, we know your grandfather went to BU, but like we really want you to come. So I mean, he was even like he was pumped because he thought I was probably gonna go to BU. So I mean, it was I think just touring both schools. I think my parents were after it. They toured it with me, and they kind of just said to me like, if you got hurt day one of college your freshman year and you couldn't play hockey again, where do you want to go? And right away I was like BC, and that was just because like the campus is so it's just beautiful, and I mean even just walking around, it's just a great place to go to college, and I think it was kind of a no-brainer for me.
Yeah, I've heard unbelievable things about that school. Just
Yeah.
I've never actually been on the campus, but I've heard how like beautiful it is.
Uh-huh.
And just yeah. So you brought up Coach York. What was it like playing for that legend, dude? Like
Yeah.
everyone that I've talked to just has like unbelievable stories about him. We
Yeah.
you mentioned, we had Mark on and he had
Uh-huh.
nothing but awesome things
Oh
to
yeah.
say about him. What was it like playing for him?
Yeah, he's the best. Like I think the biggest thing with him that I love about him is like he would recruit like obviously awesome hockey players, but he would recruit like great guys. Like I think like my 2 years at BC, like both teams were probably the closest teams I've ever been on. I think especially my sophomore year, like my sophomore year team, like I don't think I'll ever be on a closer team ever in my life. Like we still talk to this day all the time. And I think just him bringing in like a great group of guys, like he'd rather just a great human being on the team rather than like a good hockey player that doesn't care about his teammates. Like he wants good guys on his team, and that was great. But also like he just like I think the biggest thing with him too is like I remember going into my freshman year, I went to Bruins development camp, and he was there one of the days, and after I was talking to him, and he was like, "Hey, like, I liked a couple of those drills out there. Like, can you like write them down and like, give it to me for practice this year?" And in the back of my head, I'm like, "This guy's like been coaching forever. Like, he definitely has a bunch of drills, but like that's just like him. Like he constantly wants to get better.
Yeah.
He constantly wants to be a better coach, and he wants to like improve and stuff. And like the guy's won a bunch of national championships. He's in the Hall of Fame. Like he just
Right.
that was the coolest thing about him was like he wanted to get better every single day. He wanted to win. And I think with him was like if you won a game, he was so pumped, like so happy, smiling. I remember we played UMass Lowell on a Friday my freshman year. We beat them at Lowell, and then we played BU on a Saturday, and we beat BU like 3-2, and it was like a nail biter. Like they pulled their goalie like in like the last minute. They almost scored, but we ended up winning. And he came in like with a broom, like sweeping it around. Like he was so fired up. Like he just loves winning. Like I mean, it was great. So I mean, I was fortunate to be on two great teams there, and he was the best. He was the best coach, and I really can't say anything bad about him. Like he was great for my career.
Yeah, that's awesome, man. Yeah, and like I said, everyone we talked to that's played for him has
Uh-huh.
nothing but good things to say
Yeah.
about how great of a mentor he was.
Uh,
Just honestly, how funny he was too. Like,
oh
and
yeah.
for like the normal fan, you wouldn't really see that. Like, you
Uh-huh.
just see him like on the bench, just like kind of all
Yeah.
serious. But
Uh-huh.
it's good to see like so many people enjoyed playing for him. Um,
Absolutely.
and also BC being in the Hockey East, you got to play in the Beanpot tournament. Uh,
Uh-huh.
for our listeners that aren't from Massachusetts and don't really understand what that tournament is about, can you talk to us about what it was like playing in the Beanpot?
Yeah. It was probably one of the coolest games I've ever played in. And we played so my freshman year, we played BU in the first game. Still heartbroken over it. It was we played them, and it was like the second game on the first Monday, and it was literally sold out. Like we sold out TD Garden, and because usually, like being a mass guy, like you kind of know like the first game on the first Monday, it'll be like not really that packed, and then by the end of it, it'll get kind of packed because people get out of work and stuff, and then the second game's usually like sold out. So we played BU that first Monday. We ended up losing in double overtime. It was a great game. But it was just like a dream come true. Like I was just a guy like that would go to every Beanpot game with my dad growing up, and we would always stay for both games because like we just loved watching it. And I think like my dad and I we would go to college hockey. We'd actually rather watch college hockey games than NHL games. Like growing up, we thought that was like way better. We'd go to every like BU game like every Friday night, and we watch at Aganis. It was like we just thought it was like better hockey. It was kind of funny looking back on it now, but it was. But yeah, playing in the Beanpot that year, it was obviously it was tough not winning, but like looking back on it, it was just like a great experience. And then the second Monday we played Harvard. I think we beat them like 7-1 or something. There was like nobody there, which was tough, but because it wasn't the championship game. But no. And then my sophomore year, it was the COVID year, so we didn't get to play in it. But I'm just really fortunate to be able to play in those two games, and especially that BU game because that was like, you never know if you're ever going to play in the Garden ever again, and to have it be sold out, it was just something really special.
Yeah, those legit are my favorite games to go to.
Yeah.
You bring up like pro games versus college, and
Uh-huh.
you're a few years younger than me, and I
Yeah.
remember me and my old man. We used to go. I still remember watching Johnny Hockey
Oh
in
yeah.
Ryder, uh,
Uh-huh.
playing at BC, and just how unbelievable they were. I mean, it
Yeah.
was
Great.
such good hockey, dude. And I still
The
to this
best.
day love watching the college games. So after BC, you went to Des Moines, Iowa. Was it
After
was it
after what? After where?
was it Des Moines?
So that was I went to after Winch. I went to Des Moines.
Yeah. So
Yeah.
what was it like playing in Iowa, dude?
It was oh man, it was so that was crazy because those 2 years of juniors, like you think of like Des Moines, Iowa, and you think of Kelowna, British Columbia. There's like two different
Yeah.
places. Like Kelowna, like people think Kelowna is like one of the most beautiful places in the world, and then Des Moines, Iowa, actually gets a bad rep, but it's actually not. Like, Des Moines actually is probably a top 5 USHL city compared to the other cities. Like I mean, you think of like Cedar Rapids, Iowa, or like Muskegon, or those cities. Like, I'd much rather play in Des Moines. But like, I think I wasn't ready to go to college after my senior year of prep school. Like, I was just, and I think most guys aren't. Like, I think it was just like I knew I had to play at least 1 or 2 years of juniors to go to college. At the time, I was committed to Union College in prep school, and there, I mean, I was talking to a lot of BCHL teams, and then Des Moines drafted me in the second round, and the coach Dave Allison, who I love, he was great for me. He was kind of convinced me to go out there, and I mean, we were terrible that year, but like it was great for me to kind of play that year because it was a long year. We weren't good, and I mean I was playing like second line basically the whole year, and I was playing a good amount. And I just kind of to go through like ups and downs. That was kind of I mean, like I've obviously went through that stuff like growing up, but in the USHL, like you're playing 60 games where like in growing up, you're only playing like 20, 30. So like the season's kind of quick, but in the USHL, like you're living away from home, you're living with a billet family. I didn't know one guy on the team going in. So I'm like, I mean, this is going to be nuts. But yeah, it was just great for me to like on and off the ice to kind of go through that experience. And then, at the end of the year, they kind of brought in new ownership and they fired like all they fired the GM, the coach and everything. And I just didn't really know what to do at that point where I called Union and I was just like, do you think I can go to the BCHL? And they're like, yeah, absolutely. If you want to go. So that was kind of crazy because the new coach in Des Moines is trying to get me to stay, but I really just wanted to kind of go out to Kelowna. Kelowna, a bunch of Boston guys played there the year before when I was in Des Moines, like guys like Mike Lombardi, RJ Murphy, Mike Ryan, just talking to all those guys. And they're like, dude, you got to go. Like it's great experience, great hockey. So I ended up going out there and I absolutely loved it. Like my billets were awesome. I lived in a great house, great family. And then just like the guys on that team that year were great too. Like we were a really good team, and we were a pretty tight group. So it was great. I think when you're in juniors, like you're just so like kind of like excited to get to college, which like obviously you should be because college is great. But looking back on it, like you're playing hockey and you're not going to school. It's like it's great, especially in Kelowna because like there's so much stuff to do around there. Like and like I mean that's what everybody says in college, or like you don't really understand like how like great junior hockey is. Because everyone's just so excited to go to college. But no, I really enjoyed my 2 years of juniors, and no, I mean I was kind of a late bloomer where I had to play 2 years, and I think that second year I just gained so much confidence playing in the BCHL, and I mean I'm pretty happy I did that because I kind of was able to commit to BC that year, and yeah, I mean it was just a great opportunity for me to go play out there.
Yeah, was it like a huge culture shock when you got to, we mentioned Iowa, being a Mass kid, like how much of a culture shock was it when you got there and you're just like, what in the fuck?
Yeah,
Like,
it was nuts. I remember just like going out there and with my mom, and my mom came out there, and I mean like my grandparents are from like Ohio, from like the Midwest, so
yeah.
I wasn't like, I mean like a lot of kids like go from Boston to Iowa and they don't even know what the Midwest is, so I kind of like knew a little bit about it, but I was just like, it was just a culture shock. Like I remember showing up and like parking my car like on the side of the road, like in front of my billet house, and I parked it like the wrong way, where like in Boston you can park it like wherever way you want, and they're like, you like, what are you doing? And I was just like, what? Okay, I had no idea, like, cause I'm just a Boston guy. That's like normal in Boston. So yeah, I mean just like living away from home too, it's just so different. Like I mean I was living away from home in prep school, but that's way different. Like you're living with like a family you've never met before, and you really just like, I mean I was a little immature going in, and I really just I lived with two great families, and I matured a lot, I think, in those 2 years. And I think a lot of kids that go away to these billet families, like they kind of just mature a lot, because I mean you're living with a random family, you're kind of on your best behavior at all times. And no, I mean it was great for me, and like I still keep in touch with like both families, and yeah, actually the Wormers, the family I lived with in Des Moines, we played Minnesota this year. They actually watched the game, so that was pretty cool. Like they came
awesome.
to Minnesota to watch. So, but yeah, there's yeah, even like just the restaurants in Des Moines too. It was just, I mean, like in Kelowna, Boston Pizza is a huge like chain there,
Yeah.
and like it's not that good. And they're like, you don't like it? Like you're literally from Boston. And it's like, man, like there's no Boston pizzas in Boston. Like you don't like there's none of those. There's none of those. It's so like it's just a culture shock. People think just because you're from Boston, you're gonna love Boston pizza. You're like, no, it's not. That's not how it works. So there's just little stuff like that kind of people have like no idea about, which is pretty funny.
Yeah. So after your BC, I messed up the year when you went
Yeah, all good.
that up. Um, Obviously you signed with Chicago.
Mm-hmm.
What was that process like as a free agent?
Yeah.
Were there any other teams in the mix? And then what about Chicago? Like really like intrigued you?
Mhm.
What about that city did you like so much?
Yeah, it was a hard decision because like I said, like I loved BC, and to this day it was probably the hardest decision of my like I ever made in my life. It was just you grew up like dreaming about playing in the Bean Pod and all these games at BC, and then you have a couple of teams calling you, and they're willing to give you NHL games after your season's over at BC. So that was pretty crazy, but I think it really came. There was a good amount of teams that were in the mix, but um, me and my agent Jerry Buckley and my family kind of sat down and we kind of narrowed it down. But we narrowed it down to Chicago and Pittsburgh. I think just looking at Pittsburgh, like they love free agent guys. You look at like guys like Connor Sheary and guys like Drew O'Connor, and they bring in so many free agent guys from college, and like those guys like play. Like they really don't care. If you're a first rounder or a free agent, like the best players play. But Chicago was kind of like since my freshman year, they were always kind of like in the mix. Like they wanted me to go to their development camp after my freshman year. But I mean, it was canceled because of because of COVID and stuff. But they were always kind of in the mix, talking to me. And there's a scout, Mike Donahue. He's actually a Boston guy, and he was great. He was just talking to me all the time. But I think the biggest thing with my decision was, Chicago, they didn't really have a lot of guys that played like my style. I think just being a big power forward, physical guy, like at the time they didn't really have a lot of guys that kind of played like that, and where like most of their guys were kind of smaller skill guys. So I mean, I was kind of thinking like, oh, if I go in there, like you look at all these NHL teams, they need you need like role players. You need guys that will play a third, fourth line role. And I was kind of saying to myself, like, I think there's not a lot of guys that play like my style in Chicago. So that's kind of how I narrowed it down to them, and it was pretty cool. Like I got to sign the contract like in the house I grew up in Hanover, and I had a bunch of family and friends there. And then literally that night, I drove to Chicago with my dad because of like the whole COVID thing. I couldn't fly because if you fly, you have to sit out like 14 days.
Quarantine.
Yeah, where if you drive, you only have to sit out like 5 to 7. So I'm like, okay, like I'll drive. It's only like a 15-hour drive. So me and my dad drove overnight. My dad drove, so I was like kind of sleeping the whole way, which wasn't bad. And then we got to Chicago, and my dad actually flew out that morning, and that was pretty tough though, because I was like sitting in a hotel room for I think it was 6 days by myself. And anyone that knows me, that's not up my alley at all. Like I love being around people at all times, and I can never really be by myself. So that was brutal. But I remember just going to practice and like meeting all the guys. It was crazy meeting guys like Patrick Kane and Alex DeBrincat, all those guys. It was nuts. And but yeah, no, it was definitely a whirlwind. Those 2 weeks were pretty crazy.
Yeah, that was actually one of my next questions. Like, what was it like? Like, what was going through your mind when you're meeting guys like Kane, like DeBrincat, like Taves? Like, what's going through your mind? Like, are you starstruck? Like,
Oh yeah, big
yeah,
time. I was starstruck that whole time I was there. Like I was there for probably I'd say like probably a month, And yeah, I remember the first day like meeting all those guys, and I was just like, this is crazy. Like I grew up watching the guy like Patrick Kane like winning cups and scoring huge goals, and especially like winning the cup versus the Bruins in 2013. Like so that was it was pretty crazy just meeting all those guys. And I mean, I was starstruck for sure. I mean, you look at these guys and like they're future Hall of Famers, so it was crazy. But I think once you settle in and you start playing, then it kind of goes away. But yeah, it was pretty nuts how like probably 2 or 3 weeks before that, I was watching those guys on TV in my dorm room of BC, and now I'm like shaking hands with them and like just like talking. So it was a crazy 2 weeks, that's for sure.
Yeah. So speaking of Kaner, talk
Yeah.
to us about your first goal, man, because I was watching it today.
Yeah.
The play came off the boards, and then you finish it off. Take us through what you remember about that goal, and
Yeah.
like, did you kind of black out at that point? Like, what was that?
Big time. Big
Yeah,
time. Yeah. So we were that was like so I played in the last 8 games of the season, and so like a good I think my first couple games we had obviously 12 forwards, and then we were going on the Carolina road trip, and like a couple guys, I think it was like 2 guys got hurt. Like one of the guys got hurt in practice, and then another guy got hurt in the game. He got like a concussion or whatever. So we only had like 11 healthy forwards. So me and a kid who's still in the organization, Mackenzie and Whistle, were like on the fourth line, and like we were like just kind of guys would come like in and out in our line. So it was usually like a guy like Kaner or like another guy, whatever. And I remember it was like my second shift of it might have been my second or third shift of the first period, and I remember just getting on the ice, whatever. And I literally just hopped on, and I remember just seeing Twisty like kind of just fly through the right side of the ice with the puck, and I'm like in my mind, I'm like, okay, I'm just gonna go to the net, see what happens. And it was literally a gift. Like he
yeah,
had a great play, pass off pad, literally just came right to my stick, and I banged it in. And I had no idea that Kaner like passed it to Twisty.
yeah,
And so I think it was the coolest part is just like he's the first guy like
yep,
came to me after I scored. So that was the coolest thing. But I remember like after the game, my phone was pretty crazy. Like I mean, a bunch of my buddies were texting me and stuff, and they're like, Kaner assisted in your first goal, and I was like, wait, actually, I had no idea, to be honest. So I mean, that was like the kind of the funny part about it, but literally like I still kind of like black out thinking about it because I'm still kind of like starstruck, like a little bit. Like I think a lot of people are because he grew up like going to all these NHL games, and you finally score one. It's just kind of a dream come true. So yeah, that was really special.
yeah, dude. And I was watching it over again, and Kaner he freaking flew down the ice as soon as he scored. He was like one of the first ones up to you.
Yeah,
I was like, that's unbelievable, and
yeah,
everything you hear about him, he's just an unbelievable guy.
oh,
Like
yeah.
just everyone has awesome things to say about him. What when he left to go to New York, what was the vibe like around the city? Like obviously he's a Chicago legend, always will be. Like what was that like for like teammates and then fans of the city?
Yeah, I think the Chicago organization right now, it's pretty open that we're going through a little bit of a rebuild, and I mean, it was obviously like you look at all like you go on Twitter at that time, and everyone was kind of talking about it. So I don't think a lot of people were surprised about it when he went to New York, but I think he had the right to do whatever he wanted. Like people in Chicago like love the guy to death. He brought 3 Stanley Cups to Chicago. He played over 1,000 games there. Like he's a Hall of Famer for sure. So I think for him it was just I think he wanted to play like in the playoffs and play on a winning team in New York there. So, but yeah, I can't really say anything bad about him. Like he's a great guy, obviously a great hockey player, and he was great to all the young guys in, Chicago, and he helped out with a lot of us, that were kind of fresh in the league. So, but yeah, and just to answer your question, I don't think a lot of people were surprised because if you looked on Twitter, like the whole year, everyone was kind of wondering where he was going to go. So, but yeah, no, it was pretty crazy because when you think of Patrick Kane, you think of the Chicago Blackhawks, and he was there for so long, so it was pretty nuts.
I still do at this point. Like
Yeah.
like I don't even not that it just automatically you think of the Blackhawks. You mentioned Chicago's going through a little bit of a rebuild.
Uh
Uh,
huh.
what are your expectations for this upcoming season? Like, what are some areas of your game specifically that you've been really focusing on? And what are some games or some areas in your game that you think you really thrive on?
Yeah, I mean, I think the biggest thing like coming up is just like confidence. Like when you get to the NHL, like I mean, you go from the American League to the NHL, and it's like I mean, in my opinion, I think it's night and day. I think in the NHL, like you can't really have the puck in your stick for that long. Like your people are the defenders are too good. You have to like kind of have a play in your head before you get it. But I think for me, I think it's more trying to hold on to the puck a little bit more. So I think this summer, I mean, playing against other NHL guys has been huge for me because you're playing against other NHL guys. So you're working on your skills against them. And, and if you make a nice play, you're like, okay, I can actually do this. Like where I don't have to just chip it in every time and go chase it. So I think that, and then I think just as a bigger guy, just like always working on my skating. I think my first three steps, just like acceleration. That's probably the biggest thing I've tried to work on this summer is just kind of trying to get a little bit quicker, which I've been trying to like I think every summer just trying to get quicker and stronger. I think that's being a bigger guy. That's very important. And but I think like for my game, I think for me it's just I've always kind of been a shooter where like at BC, for example, I played in a line with Newhook and Boldy, and those two are really good passers. So when I got the puck, I was always shooting it. So I think for me, it's just like, getting in areas where I can shoot the puck more, create more scoring chances. And, I think that's for me, it's like trying to do that, more often. So, but yeah, I think that's this summer kind of fixing up those areas. And, but I think, I mean, playing against all these guys in Boston, it's been great, and it's been great for my confidence as well.
Yeah, that 3-on-3 tournament that we talked about earlier is just I can't even imagine like how everyone out there is unbelievably skilled, and
Mm-hmm.
you guys have to know where the puck is going like before
Yeah,
you can get it.
yeah,
Um,
it's
you mentioned guys like Charlie Coyle out there.
uh,
You're out there like it was unbelievable to watch how fast you guys are, and you know exactly what you're going to do with the puck before you even get it.
yeah. I think that's like a good example of it too. Like, and when you're in tight areas, like on that small sheet of fair, like you have to make a play, and like you're in like you can't really skate like to a bigger area because it's such a small ice out. It's such a small sheet out there. So I think playing in that is like it's actually a very good tool to use to kind of get better in those little areas. So, but yeah, I kind of got a funny story about because I said chipping the puck in. I got a funny story about my second game in Chicago. I actually just thought about this when I said chipping the puck in, but growing up a Boston guy, I was like I think anyone that plays in the NHL from Boston, like little kids always like grew up watching those guys and are kind of huge fans. And so for me growing up, like I always like loved watching Keith Yandel, and we have the same agent. My agent's Jerry Buckley, and Jerry Buckley used to represent Keith. And my second game was versus Florida, and I remember like my first shift, I kind of like hit him, and he was kind of like off balance, whatever. And like someone on my team goes down the ice, like shoots it, like goalie saves or whatever, and like he's like just so pissed off at me because I hit him, and like I think he thought it was a late hit or whatever. So he's looking at me and he's like, "What the hell are you doing?" And I was just like I didn't even know what to say. And so like the next shift, I remember like getting the puck, or whatever, at like the red line, and I didn't really have like a play to make. And obviously, it's my second NHL game. I'm not trying to turn the puck over, so
Right.
like I chip it in, and he's like right in the boards, and he's like, because like I don't even know why, but like my helmet was like way too small for me, and I was like too nervous to tell the trainer that it was too small because I'm like just a new guy there. So like the whole game, he was calling me mega head. So he was like that boy mega head, like good chip. And like literally like the whole game, every time I like chipped it in, he was all over me, man. It was like, and like guys on my team are like, dude, do you know this guy? And I was like yeah, but no, I didn't know him at all. And and then like we played him like the next day. I think it was a back to back, and he kind of gave me like a tap on the shin pads, and he was like, hey, like I was your second game, like I was just like busting your balls, whatever. But I was like, oh man, like this is like, and I actually saw him that summer at the Thayer League, and he was like, don't run me tonight, mega head. Like, so I was just like, that's just a funny story because I was like, I'm not like I can't chirp this guy, like he's played over 1,000 games. Like he's a
Yeah.
legend in this league. Like I'm just gonna eat it. Like I'm really gonna eat it. Like this guy can call me whatever he wants. Like I don't really care. But yeah, that's the little story about me chipping in the puck. Just Ethan just all over me, like literally the whole game. So
See those hilarious like clips of him like just screaming at people, like even when
oh
he's like going back to fetch the puck.
yeah, yeah.
Like, dude,
Uh,
he was
yeah,
dude.
I don't really know him that I don't really know him that well. Like I skated with him a few times, like 2 summers ago because he was going into Philly that year. But I remember like the couple of times I skated with him, like he's just like such a good guy. Like just like asking him like, where are you living this summer? Like just little stuff like that. Like he's just such a great guy, and you hear like guys like love playing with him, and it's he's obviously hilarious. So I've heard so many funny stories about him. Like I said before, I don't really know him too well, but that was just whenever people like ask me about him, I'm like, yeah, I got a story about him just chirping how
Dude,
big my head is. So that's pretty funny.
like, and especially it being like your second game, like you
Yeah,
mentioned,
literally my second game. I'm like, come
like,
on, man.
like I guess
Literally a Boston guy. Like, give me a break here. Like,
I guess I'm
yeah,
mega now. Like,
literally. So I remember like after the game, like texting Buck and like my agent Jerry Buckley, and he was dying laughing. He was like, get used to it, buddy. Like he's like, if you play versus that guy, you're gonna get ripped. So yeah, that was pretty funny.
that's so fucking funny, dude. So kind of bringing back up the Chicago Blackhawks.
Hmm.
They draft a guy, Connor Bedard. They bring in a bunch of veterans,
Yeah.
obviously from Boston, Halsey,
Hmm.
Foligno. Have you been able to talk to any of those guys yet?
No, so I actually haven't been in Chicago since May. But I'm actually so like I said before, I'm going pretty early. I'm going September 3rd, so like in like 2 weeks. But um, just talking to guys that like were at Chicago's development camp, they've said nothing but great things about Bedard. Like just saying how hard he works and how he's a really humble guy. So that's obviously great to hear from a first overall pick. Like you want guys that are humble and like work really hard. So that was awesome to hear. But just talking to guys like that played in Boston, talking to guys like Mark and those guys, like they say, like Hall and Foligno are just tremendous, tremendous guys. Great human beings, obviously great players. So yeah, I mean it'll be pretty cool to play with those guys because besides, I mean Chicago is my number one team, but my number two is Boston, being a Boston guy. So just watching them play for the Bruins, so many times, it'll be cool to kind of share the ice with them.
Yeah, that's awesome, man. And I got one last question for you.
Yeah.
What are your thoughts on the Chicago deep dish pizza? I hear so many so many mixed reviews, and I've never gotten to like actually experience it myself. I
Yeah.
gotta know from a dude that's living in
Uh,
Chicago. Like I gotta know.
so my honest opinion, like I love pizza. My number one pizza, I have like two, honestly. So 1A would be Pizzeria Regina in the North End. That's my
Yes.
number one. And my 1B is Pino's Pizza, Cleveland Circle, right near BC.
Yep.
Really like unbelievable. So those are like my two go-tos. But I love Chicago deep dish. Like I think the only bad thing about it is like it's so filling. Like you have two slices and you're like, I'm literally gonna like sit on the couch the rest of the night. Like you
Yeah.
can't do anything after. It's so much bread. So that's like the one like tough part about it. But I'm the type of guy where like if you throw a slice in front of me, like I'm gonna eat it. Like I think pizza is pizza, but there's obviously I definitely have favorites, but I think just the Chicago restaurants in general are like night and day from anywhere I've been. Like, there's so many good restaurants around there. Like, if you want to go to a good steak place, there's so many good steak places, good Italian places, good sushi, good pizza places. It's just like, it's crazy. They have like everything there. So, like, just compared to Boston or anywhere I've really been, I think the one thing that I'll say about Chicago is like the restaurants there are like unbelievable, like best restaurants I've been to.
It's funny you bring that up because a lot of like the Chicklets episodes when they
Uh,
have guys on and they talk about like, oh, what are your favorite cities that you've been?
yeah, everyone says Chicago. I feel
Oh,
like
it's like New York, Chicago, and then
yeah.
fucking whatever else.
I
And
think just because people like talking to guys that like play in the league that don't play in Chicago, I think they just say like, I mean, if you go to like New York, like that's obviously a great city to go to because there's so much stuff to do. But like in Chicago, there's great restaurants and you're not going to like the same restaurant every time you're there. Like you can just kind of switch it up and go to different spots. So
yeah,
I think that's pretty cool for guys like that are in Chicago, like on the road.
yeah, for sure, man. Oh, we're almost at 50 minutes, so listen, man, I can't thank you enough for for coming on, taking time out of your day. I also want to give a huge shout out to Benny and Greg Thomas, for
They're awesome. Greg's my guy. Benny and Greg are my guys.
unbelievable guys.
Greg was my coach from 10 years old till 20. So Benny was my teammate for all those years too. So they're great. I still talk to them all the time. So pretty funny that you guys are good buddies.
Yeah, I was a senior when he was a freshman, and we were on the same line, and I kind of just went out there and took up space and hit whoever hit him. So
Yeah,
that was about it. He did all the he was the one who put the puck in the net always. But
yeah,
and can't thank you enough for coming on, and
yeah. No worries.
best of luck this year. I know you're going to tear it up in Chicago, and hopefully,
Thank you.
if you whenever you come back to Boston, man, we'll have to link up.
Absolutely. Yeah, I appreciate you having me on, and I'll definitely be following along with the new show.
Awesome, man. Thank you so much. Take care.
Yeah, you too.